Some of them, oh my! I wanted to be a Major League Baseball.
We interrupt this regularly scheduled program.
Just kidding. No, actually, we're not kidding. We are interrupting. This is Prepper Talk Radio, segment 2.
Hour 2. Now, we, as you know, if you listen to us regularly, that we typically only do 1 hour. And last week we did an hour. Week before we did 2 hours. So we're kind of transitioning into 2 hours. And our station manager apparently did not program in our second hour here like she did 2 weeks ago.
Okay for now.
That is okay because we have no commercial breaks for this next hour.
No commercial breaks at all?
Well, we'll just
time it with the radio.
We could time it with the radio if we feel like we need a potty
time
break
it with the recording,
right?
We'll figure it out. We'll totally figure it out. Well, the cool thing is, we're preppers. So if we make mistakes, we just overcome and adapt and keep moving forward. And you, the listeners, especially those who are trying to be prepared, you'll understand that, and you can learn from our bad experience and what we broadcast, right? So that is a good learning opportunity. So stay tuned, strap in. It's going to get a little bumpy, but we're gonna run for another hour.
That's true. It might be a little bumpy, but I guess to kind of start out, we wanted to wrap up our discussion with our buddy Tim Ralston, and Tim really is a fantastic guy. We congratulate him for his recent engagement. We're very happy for him. We know that's very important to him to have a family life, and that's why he's at where he's at. We'd love for him to move up here with us and join our team, but
we even talked about it for a while. I was even going to help him find a place, but you know what? He's got to be where he needs to be, and I'm excited for him. It's always a fun chapter in life. And he's just a good guy, really knows his stuff. And it's funny because, people sometimes will call me an expert, and I cringe. I'm like, I'm like the super excited aficionado of prepping. Like, I am the passionate prepper that wants to help other people be better prepared. And I'm always trying to quote the people that know. I'm always trying to find the right resources. I know a lot more than the average guy because I've had the opportunity to be shoved into this situation. And I think the same, you would concur the same for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would like to think that our expertise is not necessarily in any particular topic, in any particular skill, but overall in and I'm thinking is out
breadth of knowledge
as we're talking in the breadth and width, but also in maybe in the interpretation, in the, like you say, like you're just saying that we are about as energized as it gets when it comes to prepping and helping others. And I think that's maybe where our expertise lies, if you want to call it that.
Our expertise is getting listeners involved, getting the audience engaged in the beauty and necessity of preparedness. Because the goal is if we can help you be better prepared, you'll have less to fear about, and you'll have a higher chance of survival and thriving.
And, I think we should maybe figure out how to do something to record, to be the fly on the wall and record our conversations outside the show.
I know.
Because they are, I don't want to.
We're all over the place.
We're all over the place, but we've got such big plans and ideas that, we're trying to figure out. We have so many, our desires are so big and so large that we want to do more. But, of course, we have to live in the real world. We're
constrained by the economic situation of being a lowly talk radio show.
And having a family and having a mortgage and
doing it for
having
free.
To pay bills and not being able to live off-grid. And no more excuses. No excuses. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing and continue to try and do better at it.
I laugh that you say and not being able to live off-grid. Soon there'll be a time where we have to live off-grid, and that's going to be... Oh my
Let's
gosh.
talk about that for a second here.
All right.
It was kind of how we warmed up the segment here when we were having some issues with getting Tim, online. We were talking a little bit about where we are right now in the whole scheme of, what do you want to call it? The end of the world, if you know it. The financial collapse, the reset. Whatever you want to call it. The end of the world.
We're getting ready for stiff.
For what? For SHTF, right?
SHTF.
Okay, yeah, whatever.
It hasn't hit the fan yet, but the fan's blowing, and someone's got their hand up, holding it, ready to fling it at the fan.
And I think that's truly the state of where we're at, is that unless your eyes are wide open and you're looking and spending a lot of time interpreting because not a lot of these things are easy to understand or what's going on.
Well, and even there's so many rabbit holes that you could go down in and outside of the world of prepping, because you can't go very far into preparedness without beginning to subscribe to conspiracy theories, right? You can't go down the world of prepping very far without realizing I need more skills and training and knowledge and expertise in a broader array of things.
Feeling that there's some lacking there, a void you need to fill. It's
like those pop top cans, like the ravioli, right? You pop it, and then you start peeling it back, and you get more and more exposure to whatever's in that can, right? That's what prepping's like. It's that little, and then you start peeling back, and then all of a sudden you have this whole can of kick butt that you can now devour.
Raviolis aren't very appetizing.
I love ravioli.
What about the SpaghettiOs?
SpaghettiOs, Garbageos, whatever. whatever, and you can have vegetables that have the same pop-top can, right? The top.
At least they'll last for a long time, right, in your food storage.
But you can look at prepping the same way. It's like you pop it, and there's a little bit, and you can't close it ever again.
No, that's true.
And
you have to eat it all.
You either have to open it and eat it, or let it spoil. And I'm hoping that you guys, the listeners, are opening and eating it, because that's what happens to us. Is we just start to devour these things, and we have conversations off the air that are all over the place. But the reality is, each and every one of us has an ability to take care of ourselves, and hopefully you have a drive to do that. And as you do that, and as you start waking up to what's going on, and you're waking up to the real situation, you are then guilty of your own future if you don't do something about it. It is your fault if you don't survive and if you don't thrive through what's going on. But it's also your fault if you're not helping your family, your friends, your neighbors, right? So we all have kind of a responsibility to help build and strengthen the team, if you will, of humanity.
And we're responsible for the here and now as well, which is the one thing that keeps us from doing the other thing, right?
Right.
So, as one of the things I mentioned at in the first hour, the beginning of the first hour, is, the question is, when is this all going to happen? When is this all going to come down? When is the system going to collapse? And like I said, and I truly believe this, when is now?
Explain that a little bit better, because the system hasn't collapsed yet. And you say, when is now? Well, it hasn't collapsed yet, so it can't be now.
And it is difficult to explain. I mean, it's very difficult. It's very complex, and so I'll try and do it as simply as I can.
Just be prepared. I may argue on
No, absolutely. Please do. And that helps me to cement my beliefs and my opinions as well. But, looking back to the previous collapse, say 2007, 2008, right? That there were certain things that people who were looking, experts who were looking, who were not denying what was going on, saw what was coming.
Well, and they warned us too.
And they warned us. And most people, I'm generalizing here, most financial advisors, most economists, whatever, they said, "Oh, this was unforeseeable. You couldn't, and not to pigeonhole this into a financial realm, because it's much larger than that. But essentially, there are signs that if you're looking, if you're watching, and if you know truth, you have to know truth, and you have to know history, and you have to know certain things to see the difference between what's normal and what's abnormal. What's normal now was completely abnormal even a decade ago, or 20 or 30, 40 years ago. Things are changing, and that's not necessarily good. Of course, everybody kind of interprets or says, "Oh, we're progressing," right? Things are changing for the better. That's not necessarily the case. And if you take that mindset, if you are aware and you have learned history and have at least had some experience in seeing what happened the previous collapse and the so-called recovery and such, that you can kind of start to see what's been happening now, what has been happening for a long time, and what even more immediately in the past month or two has really started to happen. So when I say, when is this going to happen? When is now? Things are happening right now.
Okay. So yes and no.
Okay.
Right? Things are happening right now that you may or may not see, but it's not collapsing our current situation. Right. It's preparing for the collapse, right? And if you look through history, ever since the first collapse, the Great Wall Street collapse, when the international bankers forced the smaller banks to sell all their stocks to call notes do, that's what caused the run on the market, right? And then everything went to crap. Well, ever since then, every dip, every dive, has been orchestrated. They have a control over the market.
Yep.
So those things are outside of our control, and they're constantly going to be happening. But there's other influences going on in the world that we do have control over. The problem is we're allowing ourselves to be force-fed this consumerism. I've got to have this shiny new thing. I've got to go get that. I've got to go get this. I've got to work 40 extra hours so I can afford to take my kids to this show.
So I can pay my minimum payment on my credit cards.
Yeah. Oh, I'm just going to max that out a little more. Oh, I got an extension on more. I can spend more. Okay, we're good. Okay, now we're at $500 a month on the monthly bill for that, and we're never going to pay it off. Like, that is, like, we are in a bondage, not just politically, not just the control of taxation, which is theft and all the other stuff, but like we are binding ourselves down and making it impossible for us to live a higher quality of life if we're spending on credit, if we're going further into debt or buying a lot of things that then are managing us and they own us instead of us owning them.
And I think this is a lot like, and I really like to refer to the movie The Matrix, right? Nobody can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself, right? This is kind of similar in this.
Is that the blue pill or is that the red pill?
You take the red pill. Red pill is what wakes you up.
What's the blue pill?
Blue pill is basically puts you back to sleep and you believe whatever you want to believe.
Oh.
So
that's not very fun.
No. And so, yes, red pill all day long. But I guess what I'm getting at is in order to see, you have to take that red pill. You have to wake up. You have to see it for yourself.
Right.
It's hard for me and for Scott and I to explain what we're seeing. And it's kind of like going back to the analogy of what does salt taste like, right?
You can never explain.
You can't explain what salt tastes like.
There's no word other than salty to describe the word salt.
And you can't describe what it doesn't taste like because that doesn't help. It doesn't taste like, but it does. You can't describe it, so you have to experience it for yourself. So that's really, I guess, what this is meant to inspire you to really open your eyes and look at all the lies we've been told over the years, for the decades and centuries, that things they're collapsing right now all around us. And I gave a few examples, Venezuela, Argentina, and if you think these are one-off anomalies, they're not. They're all interconnected.
They're test markets.
That's a good way to put it.
The simplest way of putting it is you can look at Venezuela as it's market research. Here's a test market. We're gonna test, see how quickly we can destroy a nation using these practices, and then we can apply those same principles to other places. And there's so many. And here's the other thing: is like people think there's just one organization masterminding all these things. It's like there's so many different organizations that are masterminding their own fate, and they're even competing against each other to try to have power and prestige. But the sad narrative is that most of us are just blissfully unaware. And then we'll become painfully aware when something triggers.
Again, back to the Matrix. Ignorance is bliss until it hits the fan.
But you don't have to be freaking out. Like there are things that I'll learn, and I'm like, oh, that's heavy, and then you move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to let it just beat you down and bear you down. But like the thing is if you can focus on skills, if you can focus on abilities, if you can focus on using your time that you would normally put towards other fun hobbies to split it up with, fun hobby and learning hobby and, gravitating towards skill development. Like you're also improving yourself as a person, and those are things that can carry over into careers and other things you're doing.
Here's something I wanted to point out to kind of help you see. Basically, it helped wake me up to show you that an example that the system is broken.
Okay.
I'm a big silver guy. That's no mystery. And so I follow silver every day. I'm watching what the price is doing. And when things go down in price, what usually happens? There's usually very low demand for it, right? It's going down in price because there's no demand for it, so we're lowering the price to see if we can get somebody to buy it. But what happened this week? The U.S. Mint ran out of silver eagles. Why is that?
People are buying them.
Well, people aren't buying them. That's the whole rub here. People are not buying silver eagles. They're sales have been record low this year and last year.
But where did the silver eagles go?
That's the big question. They're not making silver. They are required by law to make eagles as the demand requires, and to get their silver wherever they can at whatever price. It doesn't have to be sourced here in the U.S. So they are out of eagles. Yes, they're making some more, but how would they ever go short of eagles unless they can't get the silver? So people, you need to understand that if price drops low, these mines aren't going to sell. People are not going to sell because it's below the cost of production. And I don't know what's causing this all to happen, but something is wrong. This is not kosher. This is not normal for a depressed market to run out of a product.
Well, the other thing
makes no sense.
So you take into consideration that you wonder, okay, well, why is it being pushed so low? And I think the reason it's being pushed so low is that people don't see value in it, and so that any currency that is created can replace it, right? Any monetary means, what they do. And I think we're moving to an all digital market.
All digital money.
I think that's where we're moving to. Everything seems to be retinal scan, finger scan, face recognition, paperless, digital. I don't feel like we're very far off from that.
No, we're not. It'll happen suddenly and quickly, I think.
Oh yeah,
at a certain point. And I think you're absolutely right. I advocate obviously for silver and anything tangible. That is where value truly is. That's where wealth is. It's in tangible.
Yeah. Beans,
items,
bullets, Band-Aids.
Exactly. It's in those
silver,
types of resources.
Gold,
it's in land. It's in farms, being able to grow your own food, and just real wealth, tangible things. And what's happening is the exact opposite. Everything is going away from that. So take the other end of that trade, on with it every day long, and take the opposite end of that.
Well, now, going into the minimalist style and minimalist idea of living as a prepper, we also have to start considering things of okay, well, where do we go from here? How do we fix things? How do we communicate? How do we have that community plan of action? Right. Pretty excited. There's a event going on this weekend up in Bountiful. It's actually up in Centerville. It's the South Davis County Preparedness Fair. I'll be heading out to that, enjoying that, hopefully, for a little bit tomorrow. But
you're close.
I'm close. So if you're up that area, get over there. It's at the Larry H. Miller Megaplex up there in Centerville off of Parish Lane.
All right, we got a call here. Let's go ahead and answer. Let's see what they have to say. You're here live on Prepper Talk Radio. Did you have a question or comment for us?
Yeah, interesting topic, what you guys are talking about. What I'm hearing is a lot of people are trading in their gold and silver and buying the computers for mining Bitcoin.
I have heard that a lot as well, yes.
It's funny that you brought that up. I actually have a cousin who last week started selling his computers that he was using to mine for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies because it was getting too expensive.
The energy and such.
The energy consumption. And he's like, well, I'll just hold on to what I have because I've got equity in it. And I'm like, hold on to what?
Yeah.
What do you have? It's nothing tangible.
Yeah, I'm sticking with gold and silver myself.
Amen.
I think you're one of the more wise people I've talked to today. What was your name?
There's only so much of it on the planet. I actually own a gold and silver mine, and
fantastic.
Just recently I've gotten a lot of offers on the mining claims on it.
Really?
And, big mining companies.
In state or in Nevada or?
In Utah.
Awesome.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
And
connect with us on Facebook. I'm a treasure hunter part-time as well, so I'm into mines and that kind of stuff. So
Shane's geeking out.
I'm geeking out a bit.
His ears have perked up. He's smiling.
I want my old gold mine. But I think you're absolutely.
It's kind of cool. I bought it a long time ago, and it turned out to be something more valuable than what I thought it was when I bought it. But I only bought it to deer hunt. But
oh yeah,
that's a pretty good use of property there. Deer hunting, and now you can sell the mining rights. That's
seriously. Message us on Facebook here, and we'll chat a little bit.
All right, we'll talk. Talk to you later, man.
Awesome. Thanks for the call. That's it goes right back to your earlier statements, like things of real value. Land, gold, silver, beans, bullets, Band-Aids. Land is a thing of real value. Mining rights are a thing of real value. And
water rights.
We can either use those things or throw them away. But we also have a responsibility to take care of what we have, right? Take care of the earth and do the best things we can with it. And I think a lot of times we just take advantage for profit when if we do it right, there's actually bigger long-term gains from doing it right.
It's hard to see, though.
It's hard to see, especially in that moment.
I was going to say your conversation, your call reminded me of a video that Peter Schiff posted this morning. You should guys check it out. It's hilarious. Someone had taken an old Sesame Street video with Kermit and then another guy selling a bottle of air and put Bitcoin instead of air, Bitcoin. It's hilarious. You should check it out. I got another call here. Let's go ahead and take this. Hello, you're live here on Prepper Talk Radio. Did you have a question or comment for us?
Oh, I was your last caller. I just forgot to tell you I don't do Facebook. So
okay.
I'll have to somehow connect with you.
Good for you. Good for you. I applaud you. I would love to delete my account, but
you can email us at preppertalkradio@gmail.com.
Perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. So yeah, check out that little video. Peter Schiff. I'm a big follower of Peter Schiff. He's a big gold and silver advocate, and he really tells you how it is, what he can see, what's happening in the markets.
Yeah.
And he's a contrarian, and he's an economist. He's an investor. He's a manager, not a hedge fund manager, but he's a
portfolio manager.
Yeah, he's a financial guy, and he's a smart guy. I really enjoy listening to him. And this video is just hilarious. 'Cause I'm a Sesame Street guy. I grew up on Sesame Street, right? And with Kermit
are you
going to
start going into a Kermit the Frog, like
no, I don't,
waving your arms over your head and?
But yeah, this guy approaches him, he's got a trench coat on, and he's whispering, "Hey, I got something for you here. Check what? No, shh, I got this for you." And it's a bottle. It's an empty bottle. It's air. For a nickel, you can have this bottle of air. No, I'm not going to give you the bottle. I'm just going to give you the air in the bottle. And so they substituted air for Bitcoin in this video. It's hilarious, guys. Check it out. Peter Schiff on YouTube.
Find
or
it
on
and throw it up on our
whatever,
Facebook page.
No, I'll do that. I'll share it on Facebook. So it's hilarious. Anyway, so where to go from here? One thing that I wanted to kind of bring up as well that I have been trying to practice over the last couple of weeks. That something that stood out to me in my searching is the phrase or the saying, "If you're in a hurry, slow down." If you're in a hurry, slow down. Now, what does that mean?
Well,
for me, it means talk slower.
Okay, talk slower, but also like when you're doing something and you're in a hurry to get something done, the faster you go, the more likely you are to make a mistake.
Exactly.
Right? Same thing talking, same thing, driving. It's when we get in a hurry that we make mistakes. When we slow down, that's when we find new solutions.
Exactly.
Or that we stay on a safe path.
My mind is clearer.
Yep.
And, kind of like this second segment. First thing I told Scott is, let's slow it down. Let's step back.
And then you started talking fast.
And then I started talking fast. Because I got so much that wants to just pour out. And I'm trying to pronunciate properly so you can all understand me and not call up and say, "Hey,
did you just make up
down."
a word?
Did I make up a word?
I think you just made up a word.
Or was I just talking too fast?
Pronunciate?
That's a real word. What are you talking about?
Enunciate?
Pronounce. Pronunciate? Is that?
And enunciate.
Call in and tell me if that's a real word. Pronunciate.
That's the purple pill? No.
The purple? Anyway, okay, so where to go from here?
Well, I want to switch gears completely.
Yeah,
sorry, listeners, I'm going to hijack for a second.
Go for it.
I wanted to go in. We were talking about camouflage, and we're talking about invisibility, right? Is kind of a topic, but I really wanted to go there because I've been reading and watching and learning about it, and you can go gray. Like our last caller, he doesn't go on Facebook, right?
Yeah,
he's going gray. He's blending in by not standing out. I drive a big gray vehicle. And it's kind of funny today. I'm looking at us, and I'm like, I'm wearing a gray hat. You're wearing a gray hat. I'm wearing a gray shirt. You're wearing gray pants. I'm wearing blue jeans. You're wearing a black shirt. Like, we don't stand out. If you put a lineup of people, we're not going to be the ones that get picked as quickly.
And we're in a gray studio. The walls are gray, so we could stand against it and kind of blend in.
But I'm thinking not so much like the camouflage of like just hunting, like the camouflage of life. Like as a prepper, we don't want everyone's attention drawn to us.
I like that.
But we also want to be able to be a voice of reason to help people get better prepared. And so there's like that balance. Like, okay, where do we draw the line, and where do we conceal ourselves and give ourselves an additional layer of safety, versus where don't we?
I'm writing this down. I'm taking notes.
Yeah. And I see we've got a caller. So I kind of want to let's gamble, take the call, and then if it's not on this topic, we'll come back to it afterwards.
Sorry, we missed you. We were too slow.
Yeah, call back. We'll jump over onto your topic. Hopefully you're on the concealment and
yeah. So we want to talk a little bit about the kind of camouflage the Greyman Principle versus camouflage, blending in to surroundings versus standing out as the military does in their full fatigues and fully kitted out as an operator. There's the three different aspects of I don't know what you call it, not necessarily camouflage, but true camouflage and blending in your surroundings.
Right.
As one you might typically think. The Greyman Principle of blending into your surroundings as well.
Well, the Greyman is blending in urbanly, right? That's typically what that's looked at. And then you've got like the hunter's camo or the wilderness survival camo where you're trying to not be seen, right? And where you don't leave tracks. You've got ghillie suits, and that all came from Scotland, way back in the day, and they were getting animals off land.
You're trying to claim that too, huh? There, Scott.
That's where it came from.
All right, cool.
Read your books.
All right.
The entire movement of snipers and ghillie suits came from the UK and Scottish hunters.
Interesting.
Do the research.
Well, because
I've actually done
very
it.
much a grassland out there, so it's hard to you can't hide behind a tree, right? You have
you've got to hide in plain sight.
There you go.
And that's where that came from, and it's evolved. And I mean, now they've got things you can reduce your scent.
Golf came
scent
from there
blockers.
Too.
What's that?
Golf came from there too. Right?
True. You know why there's so many holes?
No, tell me.
How many holes are there?
What? 9, 18?
18. There's 18 servings in a bottle, I believe, of scotch or whatever it is. That's a weird factoid I found online. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I don't drink, but non-prepping related. Let's jump back. Like camouflaging, hiding in plain sight, being invisible, or being auspicious. Is that the right word I'm looking for? Like being being there but not being the focal point.
Yes,
is really what I want to say.
Being able to move through a crowd or through a forest with minimal disruption, without being noticed, without making a sound, essentially. And
the same thing urbanly and in our lifestyle. Like we don't have to stand out. And it's funny because social media, especially like Instagram, since Instagram and Facebook, they want you to stand out, right? They want you to show off, and so we get this false sense of identity of, so and so's always vacationing, and so's always, And it's funny because I'll talk to some of these influencers, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll do a photo shoot, and we'll go do a photo shoot in one day, and that's every photo I need to launch on my profile for the next month and a half." So I'm not really living that lifestyle, But they need to portray that so that they get people to follow them, so that they can then market to them what they need. Otherwise, they're not an influencer and they don't have a revenue stream from that platform. But it's like it's this platform of false hope. And that's all platforms of social media is like this. It's false connection. It's not real, truly social.
And we try and be as real as possible in our social media. I mean, that's one of our only avenues, other than here broadcasting over the library, to get your attention, to hopefully awake you if you're asleep.
We'll throw jokes out. We'll throw content out. We'll throw reality checks out. Like we want you to be able to engage with us, and if you have content you want us to talk about, that's the best way to get a hold of us. Like just get it on our Facebook page. But there's so much that people will just go and follow that is irrelevant, and it does not really help us in life. It does not really improve our situation. Whereas simplifying, going a little bit gray, so to speak, going a little bit camouflaged in life, can really take stress levels down. Like the flashy car, or the new house, the big shinies, all the big shinies in life. Like if we can enjoy the simple shinies and enjoy the tattered and torn a little bit better, we'll be able to better survive anything because we'll have a better mindset. We're not going to be married to those items.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. One of the take my vehicle for example. I've got a 4Runner. It's
your second wife.
Sure, you can call it that.
You talk about it.
I spend
all the time.
I spend more time in my 4Runner than I do.
Well, that's because of your job.
It's because of my job and such.
But what are we always talking about? Tires. We're talking about
lifts. We're talking about suspension. All kinds of goodies.
All the things you want to modify on your car and tweak out and take care of.
What I really love most,
and you baby it too.
Yeah, I do, but I use it. And what I love most about it, what I was leading towards, is that it has scratches. It has dings, and I consider them, trophy marks.
Well, and
it's not like, I've got to, and I know some people who are OCD about these kinds of things, right? But a little scratch here, there, dent here, there shows experience. It shows
character.
Character, absolutely.
Usefulness, resourcefulness. But the point I wanted to come up, like, okay, so you treat it better, and it's going to last longer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's going to last longer, is because you treat it better and you take care of it. And I think way too often in life, we don't take care of the things that really matter. Like, you need that car for work, but also for survival and for other reasons.
Absolutely.
We need each other. And are we taking care of each other the way we should? The groups, that Tim talked about earlier about putting together prepper groups. Like, I'm for and against prepper groups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, I like the idea, but I also hate the idea.
They can be a detriment.
I want it to be a community of just everybody is coming together to work, right? I am very, very fortunate because I have a neighbor who's got a surgical type area in their home. Mm-hmm. I've got a neighbor who's a surgeon. I've got a neighbor who works in the ER. I've got all these resources, and I've got, me, Mr. Non-Medical guy, I've got a surgical kit. Mm-hmm. And neither of them have a surgical kit at home. So we've planned it out. Like, we know where we're going to go. We know how we're going to keep things clean. We know what we're going to do. And my job is basically organize and supply. Their job is to hack limbs and fix people and whatever else needs to happen, right? Deliver babies.
Amputate.
Hopefully there's not hacking limbs, but we're completely, if you drive down our street, you drive through our neighborhood, you're not going to have a clue that we've got the resources available in that area to help sustain a lot of people for a long time. Because if you get down to the very basic of it, why we prepare and why we're doing all these things. For example, the city of Bountiful has like 2 police cars on duty any given time, on average, maybe up to 4, but it has like 1 ambulance in the town. Like, there's not enough, and firemen on duty. So there's not enough.
Doesn't sound like enough for.
Well, it's based on the number of incidents. It's enough.
Oh, okay.
But in a disaster, it's not enough.
Right.
And we have to, as a community, wherever you live, whatever you're doing, you need to be able to come together with your neighbors. And you cannot do that living on social media. You have to go door knocking and introduce yourself to your neighbors.
Face to face.
You need to go take them cookies. You need to go become their friends. You need to go shovel their snow.
I'll take brownies.
You want brownies? Yeah.
Fudge
brownies, cookies, fudge, lollipops, make candles and take them around. Like, find something to help them remember who you are and help you remember who they are and what skills and abilities you have, so that you actually care enough about each other to want to fix things when things go bad. And I am so fortunate that I've got those neighbors. I wish you were closer.
Yeah, me too.
And you wish I was closer. So, because not only are we best friends, but like, we're equally mindset. Like, there's so many skills and abilities we each have that we could really benefit each other's families.
I might have somebody to talk to during the week.
Yeah.
Like we talk about the Greyman Principle. I'm kind of the ultimate Greyman. I just blend in. When I'm family, functions, I'm up against the wall and nobody sees me, right? Because they don't want to talk about prepping, right?
Well, it's funny. Like, I have a social media business. Like, I actually make my money on social media because that's where people are. Mm-hmm. And here I am saying, don't get on. Like, don't waste all your time there. But that's where people are. Mm-hmm. They're not in the traditional mediums. I mean, so radio's still big. TV's falling apart because everyone DVRs and skips the commercials, right? So for marketing and for getting your message out there, it's like, where else can you go? But for becoming a solid community, you have to get offline. You have to go gray a little bit and get found. You have to get connected with your community. Like, I joke because I've got this social media business. It's a digital marketing company. And I don't want to take on any more clients and work harder, because then it takes away from everything else I'm doing for the radio show and for, quality of life. But the other part of it is being in digital marketing, you're disconnected from people automatically, because I'm creating content, launching content, looking at all the metrics and seeing how it's performing and tweaking and tuning. And so I have a couple of contractors that I have that work for me, but I don't have employees, and I do this for a reason. But the problem is I then don't have anyone to talk to. So I drive Lyft on the side for fun. It makes money, but that's where I get to talk to people. And my number 1 topic is food. Number 2 topic is politics. Number 3 topic, preparedness. Yep. And it's crazy how many people are like, wow, I haven't thought of it that way.
Yeah, and I make it a point to bring that up in pretty much any conversation. At least, just mention it and see where it bounces, right?
Yeah.
Throw it out, see if it sticks. If it sticks, we keep talking, right? If
the pasta ready, throw it against the wall.
Exactly. There you go. And if it bounces off, then we talk about sports, right? or
find out what they're interested in.
Exactly. So, and I've noticed in most of these conversations, I'll throw it out and we'll have a small conversation about it, and then I know when to
pull back.
To stop and pull back and
abort.
And I know when to go deeper, too, because I'm getting pretty good at this, honestly. I'm getting really darn good at this. But I think in our less than 20 minutes now, time is flying, let's dig a little bit more into this camouflage thing,
okay.
right? Because we talk about Greyman, because we find ourselves in an urban or suburban setting most of the time, in the city.
So we've talked digital, now let's talk physical.
Yeah, and so the Greyman theory is to be able to move through a crowd, through a populated location, without getting undue attention. And there are a lot of benefits to that. A lot of us, on social media, like you're saying, want to stand out. And that's, something we try and do as Prepper Talk Radio on Facebook and such, to try and get your attention to then point you towards things that we believe in.
Yeah. It's not being a threat, right? It's making people think you don't really exist. Wherever you go. And that's hard for me because I'm pretty loud and fun.
Or if they see you, they don't remember you. Or they don't remember the details. And that's really what the Greyman Principle kind of is. You'll be seen, but you won't be noticed. You won't be remembered.
Yeah, they don't pay attention to you or they dismiss you from their mind, from their history, right?
And exactly. Now then to the other opposite end, in an SHTF situation, are there benefits to dressing up as military, like you know what you're doing, you got your all your gear on, and I'm lacking for words here. You got all your
you're
camo
talking
on.
So you're talking uniformed,
yes,
right? I think there's definitely more dangers to that than there are positives.
What about if in your community you have your squad, whatever you want to call them, your group, who are assigned to for protection,
like
for
security
scouting,
detail,
like a security detail,
right?
All in their uniforms. It look like they know what they're doing. I think that has probably the only real world application for me.
Okay.
To dress that way.
Okay. I think there could be a psychological edge in some cases, but I think there's more dangers.
Okay.
To that than positives.
Now you're saying dangers if they're not actually trained. If you're posers, right? If you're just posers,
absolutely, because most of us are posers, right? We go tactical because it's the flashbang. It's like, hey, look at my cool tactical pants. Oh, hey, look at my cool camo. Oh, hey, look at my cool.
You got the AR-15 over your shoulder.
Right?
You're looking like an operator, right?
And you have very little actual training, skill, mindset, ability.
I agree. That's
we're
dangerous.
Armchair tactical operators, right? We could talk about it all day, but we can't actually do it. And I think that's a very dangerous place to be.
But I think there's a benefit in doing that if you're trained.
If you're trained.
But
I think there's a greater benefit if you blend in, you look non-confrontational, and you can address concerns with an Overwatch as those concerns come up. You can have your person that just looks like a casual Joe. It's kind of the Andy Taylor method, right? He comes up unassuming, hey, how you doing? What brought you into town?
But he's a smart guy.
But he's the smartest guy in the city, right? And he's got his, Barney Fife really doesn't apply because Barney Fife's crazy. But in our scenario, I want to have like the Andy Griffith, and I want to have the Bob Lee from Shooter, in the back up on the hill. Like my best shooter needs to be up there, so if someone pulls a gun or someone pulls goes stupid, well, Andy Taylor's okay.
Barney helps to pull off the illusion that Andy's putting out there.
That's true.
So
he's also a distraction.
Yes, that's true. Look over here. Don't look over here.
Yeah, don't look at the man behind the curtain. But I think there's an advantage if you can have a non-visible presence. That Absolutely. I think is more security. I mean, I love the ideas of trip lines. I love the ideas of loud noise items that you can use, so that when someone does come wandering into your area that is unannounced or that you may not want there, you hear about it well in advance.
And what I'd like to bring up here in the last 10 minutes or so is there's something called the 7's of concealment.
Okay.
So not that we're experts on concealment or camouflage, but I find these very interesting and applicable in so many different aspects of the Greyman, of full concealment and camouflage, as well as the let's get all in our uniforms and look like we know what we're doing.
Right.
And so I'll go through these, I guess, relatively quickly. Okay, number one. I'm just all over the place. I got too many thoughts coming out here.
I know, I can tell.
Scott's
if you guys could see, Shane's like his eyes are spinning around his head like he's got like 80 checkpoints in his brain that he's focusing on.
As you can see, I have
looking down at
my
his
notepad
notes
here. I've got like 10 pages of notes here.
And here I am over here with my notes digitally. I'm waiting for an EMP to happen to just wipe everything out.
And I've got my trusty
notebook
here, which I take with me everywhere. It's my journal, I guess you would call it, as well as my show notes to pass on to my kids.
Ooh.
Anyway, so number one, in concealing yourself, like Scott's saying, there are a lot of advantages to not being noticed.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that throughout my life. I've been relatively unnoticed, and the first girl who noticed me, I married her. So
good job.
I'm good at this. So I know what I'm talking about here, right? So, okay, shape. You think about the human form, that's easily recognizable, right? Oh,
yep.
When you're in the wilderness, whether you're in the city, whatever, the shape of a person standing there is immediately recognized, right? Excuse me. So, and even, a human shape holding a rifle. I mean, that's something that your eyes just catch immediately,
yep.
right?
So being able to break that shape up.
That's
part
shape
of
up, exactly.
Camouflage, right?
Lines, in particular, lines. And that's... we won't get into the particular details. We just don't have the time. But these are the things you need to be aware of when you want to stay concealed.
Okay.
So first of all, shape. Flat, round, two-dimensional, three-dimensional, different lines to break up.
Bold patterns. Like the problem is like a lot of us will wear like big giant logos on things, right? And big bold patterns. It's like for concealment purposes, you don't want all that because the less of that you have, the easier it is for you to not be seen.
And that's where like a ghillie suit really comes in. Well, I got a call here. Let's go ahead and take this. Well, you're live here on Purple Talk Radio. You have a question or comment for us?
Yeah, I just want to, and earlier in the show you were talking about things happening right now as far as there's things collapsing and things going on right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to comment on that.
Please do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So basically, I've been hearing that since the 70s. And so people will say, well, nothing's happened. And, not on a major scale, certainly it hasn't happened, maybe on just certain small areas of natural disasters and things. But I think one of the things is people say, well, it didn't happen. Because I think a lot of times people, what they did was they took heed and they prepared. And then when they prepared for something, then, the disaster didn't happen because people were prepared. And I think the biggest thing in my lifetime that I recall was 2000, when nothing happened, when the computers changed over, et cetera, when we changed.
Yeah, the old Y2K scare.
People prepared. I mean, companies spent billions and governments spent billions of dollars upgrading their computers, so nothing happened. So, people say, well, you were wrong because nothing happened. I said, well, it doesn't mean that people were wrong about something happened. It's just that people took heed and they took the advice, and so nothing happened because they took the advice.
Yes, they took the measures needed to fix it before it became a bigger problem.
That's a
great
point.
Reduce the impact, right? I think that's a brilliant point. I mean, in my own life, like I've had financial woes, and I've reduced the impact of that by having an emergency fund, like by having food storage. And I think that applies not just to our households, but also to our cities, our states, to federal and international. Like there's so many ways those same principles and practices can be applied, so that when we do see an identifiable crisis, we can avoid it or avert it by taking the proper steps.
And I think that's why there are a lot of people do not continue to prep today because they have prepped in the past. Nothing happened. I'm not going to waste my time with that again, right?
Well, plus they come out with new stuff all the time. It's like, so what do I do with this old stuff? And, and that's just kind of the way it is. It's like people say, well, I want one gun. I want to buy one gun. That's all I want to do. And it's like, well, good luck, because each tool has its own purpose.
Yep.
So it depends on what you're using it for.
Yeah, and that's also one of the reasons why I say look to the past to prepare for the future. Using that older school kind of technology tends to outlast newer developments. I guess.
Well, and it's also the mindset of the older days where
well.
You don't need as much. You simplify.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have any other comments for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to say too. There's been times that I've might have overspent or something, and that silver came in handy to trade in and pay off my debt.
Yep. Be your own
Amen.
bank. Be your own bank. Absolutely. There's no reason to put your money with someone else when you can be your own bank. Thanks for the call. Great comments. Sure appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, you bet. All right, cool. Okay, back to camouflage.
Number 2.
We're running out of time here quick, so where's my list here? Number 2, shine.
Yep.
So to be aware of shine, reflection, or you may also call it surface. Be aware of what the surface is.
Well, so human skin's very oily, right? And in pressure situations, the oils surface, the sweat glands get going. So you need to be able to reduce that as much as possible.
Yeah, and that can be done with, think of something even like something may be black, but if it's glossy, there's your shine, there's your surface that's going to make you stand out. So, things that are matte, satin finish, even a mesh, having a mesh of some sort to cover you or whatever you're trying to conceal. And that's why, the military puts face paint on.
Yep.
Not just to break up the lines of their face and the shape and the silhouette of their face,
break
but
up
also
lines to
the
flatten
shine
and
as
to
well.
remove the shine.
Exactly. All right, number 3, shadow.
Yeah.
Shadow. We not only need to be aware of them, but we need to use shadow as well to our advantage. Exactly like the ninjas. Live in the shadows, and especially
the problem with ninjas is you never see them.
That is a problem,
and that's the point, right? They hide in the shadows.
Yeah. And I think kind of part of our discussion earlier is that most everyone I think is trying to stand out. And that's what social media is about. We're trying to stand out, whereas
they want to feel special.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't want to feel that way?
Right.
Feel that they're needed and feel like they're noticed.
And if we're bonding, we feel needed and we feel special.
And if you feel noticed on social media, then okay, that counts, right?
In a way, and it's a false sense of connection because you're not there. Like there's something to be said for human touch. It is one of the most powerful things. Like you cannot get through a crisis online as easily as you can in real person. When someone gives you a hug, instead of sending you a text that says hugs and kisses, prayers,
XOXO,
right? When you get that physical hug, like that is so powerful.
Yeah,
and we need more of that.
Now, with shadow also goes just observing light. Observing light, where you're casting shadows, like when you walk up on a river to fish. You don't want to cast your shadow into the edge of the river where the fish may be right into the bank and scared away. So just being aware of shadows and light and then staying low so you're not casting shadows. Number 4, silhouette, kind of goes along with shape.
Goes with shape, but it's specifically our silhouette is very recognizable, identifiable. It's funny because I think what's the world record is a lady could see a friend a mile away and recognize which friend it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Guinness Book of World Records. Incredible. Like, I'm like, how did this lady do that?
It was through the silhouette and shape of...
It was the silhouette and shape. Like, she could recognize who it was.
Yeah. Now, also that has to do with, like, if you're a photographer, you notice backgrounds, right? You don't want to be backlit in many situations. So it has to do with your background, the backlight, matching your surroundings, and not only when you're trying to hide yourself, but when you're looking for others as well in those types of environments. These things should be on the tip of your mind, thinking, okay, I'm looking for a shadow, I'm looking for shape, I'm looking for silhouette, shine, reflection, so forth. And of course, for me, a big one, the next one is really big, sound. Because I wear glasses, right? My eyesight is not the greatest. With glasses, it's good. But I think that has made my ears more attuned. So, and I've mentioned on other shows that when I'm in the mountains, when I'm listening a lot more than anything, I'm listening for potential dangers, rockfall for one of them. And so sound, of footsteps, and it takes training, it takes
snapping
practice.
From a footstep.
Exactly.
You can hear other people breathing. Like I always laugh when I watch a movie and someone's hiding in a closet and they're panicking and they're breathing hard, and the guy walks in the room and looks around, doesn't see anybody, and walks out. And I'm like, use your ears. Sound travels. We don't pay attention to a lot because we get so distracted. And I think if we would take some time and really listen, and the next one, smell.
Well, actually, I just wanted to continue with sound real quick. Is we set watching posts, right? When you're trying to protect your compound, you protect your home, whatever. You don't want the fight to happen at your house. You want it to happen further out. So you've got watching posts, but you also have listening posts.
Yep.
And at night, it turns from a watching post into a listening post, unless you, of course, you have some night vision, which would be fantastic on my long list. But listening posts.
Definitely not a minimalist thing to get.
No, that's absolutely right. And definitely not a minimalist thing to have the night vision. But to be able to use your ears, absolutely, that's a minimalist. That's a skill. And to be able to recognize the different sounds of a tinkle of a gear moving here, or of the shuffle of pants, or whatever it might be. That is a sound that's a skill that really takes some practice. And the more time you spend in the outdoors, the more acute your ears are going to be to, oh, I know what that is. I know what that is. Oh, I don't recognize that sound. That's a danger, right? Mm-hmm. So sound is a big, and of course, covering up your sound.
Yes.
When you're moving, being aware of your sound as you move.
Well, it's funny how loud we walk.
Yes.
And one of the things is we wear, like women wear heels. Those are so freaking loud. Moccasins. We used to wear moccasins. Mm-hmm. The mountain men used to wear leather moccasin wrap boots, right? Mm-hmm. Like they wanted to be quiet. Because they had to hunt up close to the animals, right, that they had to kill. But also they don't want people to sneak up on you. You want to be able to move quickly and out of the way and leave no tracks. And so, sound, silhouette, like all those things come into play. And moccasins, I think, is one of the most perfect foot coverings.
But also, like you say, smell should be a part of that as well,
that's the other sense that I want to go into.
I don't have a great nose, and most
sound
guys probably don't.
And smell can give away a lot. Mm-hmm. We can smell something cooking up to a mile away, or almost a mile away, depending on the winds. But in Tim's book, he actually talks about that, like how smell travels really well, and that's, as humans, we can't track somebody by smell. A dog can, but we can track somebody by a roast beef cooking, right? That's where our skill sets kind of are lacking.
And just think of how often a smell brings back a memory.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be an early morning sunrise, and it's all cool and dewy, and it'll take me back to another point in my life where, like, I remember that just because of the smell. It's pretty amazing. Okay, next two are speed and surroundings. So speed and how we move, whether it's jerky, whether it's smooth, fast or slow. Obviously, snipers, they move slowly, right? They're crawling down slow. They're down low, and they're moving slow. And I think the big part about the speed that stands out to me is staying still.
Yes.
You think about Bambi, for example. If she only would have stayed down laying down, the mother, she would still be alive today. If the hunter would have walked right by, and
we wouldn't have the story
we wouldn't have the
that
stupid,
we have.
It's a sad story. Bambi's mother would still be alive. Anyway, speed and staying still. I think more than anything, that's what stood out to me of this principle of speed. And then, of course, surroundings. Being aware of how you're affecting the surroundings around you. Animals, for example, like squirrels. They'll start chirping, right? Because it's their warning sign.
They hear you, they see you, they let everybody else know that you're there.
Exactly. And then, your surroundings also of you creating a path while you're moving. And that's difficult. That takes a lot of time and practice to learn how to avoid creating a path, to move through a wooded area without disturbing.
Or an urban area. Some areas it's just hard to not leave tracks.
You forget about the urban area and that you can leave your a path behind.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just waiting for this. We're at the top of our hour here at 4:00, waiting for the next thing to kick in here. So we'll just keep going until this kicks on here. But you're listening to Prepper Talk Radio. Shane here and Scott here on K-Talk.
I just feel like you went into like this Bob Ross, like, hey, we're just make a little happy little tree over here.
I'm just wondering what's going on here because we don't know what's going on with our programming here on the computer, and technically our hour is up.
You're
there
listening
we go.
To the all.
I knew that would happen. I knew it would just come right back on. And there's our music. So thanks for joining us here on Prepper Talk Radio. We'll be back again next week. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. I think that's the only two places we are. We'd love to connect with you. Thanks, guys.